I've been having an issue lately with my YouTube recommended, where the people I watch that review films and stuff like that, they've been talking about adaptations, specifically musical adaptations, but it brings on a point that, like, I've had a lot of trouble with, a lot when I watch movie critiques and stuff like that, where the movie's quality and its worth is based on the original adaptation and how it differs and how close it is from it. And that just doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's like a game of Chinese whispers, right? The first person, the original whisperer, they will whisper their message, and the person will then whisper that message, and along the line, the message gets adapted into everyone's ears until we reach the end, where it may be a very similar product, in which case it's considered a success, or it could be something really different, something really wrong, and it's laughable. It's a laughable mistake. People think it's pathetic. Same thing applies for adaptations, which is kind of stupid, but it's true. Like, for example, the issue I had recently that really brought it up was that a few YouTubers that I watched talked about Into the Woods and how it was a poorly adapted musical and a poorly adapted movie, and it just doesn't make any sense that they've ruined the core message of the film, and they haven't ruined the core message of the film. Sure, the elements, the comedy is not there. The musical numbers are pretty good, actually. I think they sound nice, but I understand what they mean, that the way it was constructed, orchestrated, I guess, is a bit different from what the original musical was, but that's not the point, right? It's its own separate entity now. Like, the Into the Woods musical, the original one, is good. It had to be good to have been adapted in the first place, but the adapted version should not be compared to the original. Like, I guess you can if you want, but its quality should not be compared to the original, because it is its own separate thing. Like, that being, like, just because an adaptation is bad doesn't make the movie bad. Does that make sense? But that being said, a bad movie is a bad movie, no matter how you look at it. I just feel you shouldn't compare it to something else, which it isn't. Like, the Cats musical is a very good example of this. Like, that's a bad movie. It's just a bad movie all around. The music's a bit iffy, the acting is weird, the animation is weird, it's uncomfortable to watch. But the original Cats is good. It's good. I've watched it. But that's my point. Everyone can agree the Cats movie is bad, because it's a bad movie. It's also a bad adaptation. The two do not necessarily co-align. Another example would be Heathers. Heathers is a very good example. So Heathers, for all you know, started off as a movie in like the 80s or something like that. Starred Winona Ryder. I'm gonna be honest with you, the movie isn't that great. It's not a spectacular movie. But it then got adapted into a musical, which was very spectacular. It was a really good adaptation. But that's because it was a good musical. And then it got adapted into a TV show. Now, the TV show received a lot of backlash. Why? Because the musical was really good. And the musical, because it was adaptation, generated that the movie was really good, even though it was kind of average. Now, this is where the Chinese whispers things really comes into play, because the movie whispered along, turned into the musical, very good, very similar still. However, the TV show was different, because the TV show took the concept, the idea, the characters, and they made it their own. They adapted it into something that definitely wasn't at the start. And because of that, it's considered bad. It's not good. People don't like it. Which isn't fair, is it? Like, it might just be me, but I don't think it's fair that you can compare the end product with the original thing. That doesn't work out. If we wanted to, like, provide theory, if you think, oh, this is just a loser teenager on the internet ranting about how shit people are for shitting on things, that's not what I'm saying. Movies can be bad. Adaptations, which are movies, can be bad. Film, text, any text which is adapted can be bad, but its adaptation isn't dependent on the original. The original is not what we're basing it off of. We're basing it off of what it is. And for this, you can argue, you could apply death of the author. That's right, death of the author. How many of you know what that is? I don't know how many of you are. Actually, most of my subscribers are my friends. They probably know what death of the author is. But my point still stands that death of the author can be applied as to why adaptations should not be viewed in context of the original. Death of the Author is a theory by Roland Barthes, a great literary guy, and he argues that a text should be viewed without any context to the author. Once that text is out in the world, once it is published, and once the reader reads it, the author has died. He's dead. And this is pretty good. This is actually pretty reasonable, because the reader is the one who decides if it's good. The author doesn't matter. the original text can be considered the author. Because the original text is what created the adaptation. Therefore, the original text is the author, and if Roland Barthes is to believe, the merit of a work can only be judged by the reader, the viewer, not the author. So, I'm really oversimplifying this. If you want, you can go research Death of the Author a bit more. It's much more in depth. There's probably tons of YouTube videos explaining it better than I can. But you, the viewer, the person viewing the text, should view the text solely isolated. Isolated text viewing. It's you. It's you. You're the one who decides if it's good or bad, not the adaptation, not the original, not the author. I don't think it's fair. Into the Woods was a good movie. This is really all this is about. Into the Woods was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was good. I really enjoyed Into the Woods. And it just frustrates me that people want to pick apart the problem because they have a problem with the adaptation. It's Chinese whispers. It's Chinese whispers. Anyway, this is the Brog YouTube channel. I have hate for people who shit on movies for the sake of shitting on movies. Even if they're like, don't shit. It's all good. Alright, thank you. Please subscribe. Join the YouTube channel. I stream on Twitch as well. I'm a gamer. Game. Goodbye.